Who said you could sleep? It's just that I have a fever over 100 degrees right now. That has nothing to do with me. Just manage your own health. My husband taunts me as I lay in bed with a high fever. When I try to ignore him. Got some nerve ignoring me, huh? Stop it, please. He forcefully tries to drag me out of bed, grabbing my hand. I desperately shake him off, and he stumbles backward. That's when his switch flipped. Don't you dare defy your husband. That was when he hurled the empty wine bottle he was holding, aiming it straight at me. I instinctively covered my face. For a moment, I braced for death. Fortunately, his aim was off, and the bottle shattered against the window instead. Don't dodge. What are you doing? If that had hit me. It's because you don't obey me, and you don't even do the housework. I never said you could slack off. Then, a voice came from behind my husband. I can't just stand by and listen to that. My husband turned around immediately. Why are you here? He couldn't hide his shock at the person in front of him. I never imagined you'd go this far. There's a reason for this. How disgraceful. Reprimanded harshly, my husband quieted down and began to tremble with overwhelming fear. Perhaps he instinctively understood the fate that awaited him. But this wasn't the end. I was determined to settle scores for all I had endured up to now. I am Judy, 54 years old. I live in a house with my same-aged husband, Kevin. We met at a dinner party. I didn't know at the time, but our fathers were acquainted. I only found this out decades later. Nice to meet you. I'm Kevin Anderson. Oh, nice to meet you too. Honestly, I was reluctant about the dinner party. I thought living alone would be easier and better. So, I acted as standoffish as possible to make him dislike me. However, Kevin kept pushing his way into my life. What are your hobbies? Hobbies? I'm often at home, so I read books and do crafts. Those hobbies suit you, Judy. Is that so? Before I knew it, I was caught up in Kevin's pace. Eventually, I found myself dating him. I thought it was troublesome at first, but he kept a comfortable distance, making it not so bad to be around him. I think it's about time. About time? Yeah. How about we get married? Huh? Oh yeah. We met when we were both 25, and by the time we were 30. He had somewhat persuaded me into marriage. I thought it would be harder than it actually was. At 32, we had a daughter, and I thought this was how life would continue. I'm going to the hospital. Are you feeling unwell? A bit. But I think it'll be okay. After turning 50, I began to feel increasingly unwell without knowing why. So, I went to the hospital, where I received an unexpected diagnosis. Is that really true? Yes. It might be due to age, but it's likely changes in your female hormones. Is there a cure? Some people see symptoms subside within a year, while others may continue for up to 3 years. I see. Let's start with improving your lifestyle habits to minimize the symptoms as much as possible. I had heard about menopause from friends, but now it was my turn to experience it. When I got home, Kevin was waiting for me. So, what did they say? It's menopause. Menopause. So, are you okay? Huh? I couldn't help but raise my voice. A little rest should do the trick, right? Maybe, but... And thus, I would be tormented by Kevin's frivolity. As he suggested, I took some time off work. If it had eased my symptoms, I would have been content. But it wasn't that simple. Hey, are you okay? I have a headache. I'm sorry, but you'll need to manage dinner on your own today. What? Why? Why? Because I can barely move. You know I can't cook. Then maybe order takeout or something. Just get it ready. In the end, I had to prepare dinner for Kevin. All the while, he enjoyed his drinks while watching TV, as I battled a severe headache. When we first got married, we were supposed to support each other through life. After that, his attitude towards me never changed. I have something I want to discuss. A discussion? Hope it's not something bothersome. Bothersome? So? What is it? I'm thinking of taking a leave of absence from work. A leave? Don't you just lack motivation? That's not it at all. I'm really suffering here. Then, after some thought, Kevin reluctantly agreed. Well, you'll take care of the house in return. I'll try my best. Not try, you'll do it. His tone was so harsh it made me think he might be the one going through menopause. I wondered why he couldn't understand me. But thinking about it just made me more tired. Half a year has passed since I took my leave. Judy? Are you okay? Yeah, somewhat. You don't look okay at all. I was out shopping with a friend when I suddenly felt dizzy and collapsed right there. My symptoms didn't improve, and my worried friend called an ambulance. At the hospital, I received N4 and my condition finally stabilized. Your husband is coming soon. So, don't worry. Is that so? Thank you. Despite my friend's reassuring words, I felt nothing but anxiety. I had been criticized so much that I expected nothing good now. That I had ended up in the hospital. About an hour later, Kevin arrived. Hey. Are you really okay? I was really worried. Yeah. I was surprised by his worried tone and struggled to respond properly. I had expected him to be angry, but he was surprisingly kind. I'm glad you're safe. I'm sorry for worrying you. Never mind. Just rest well today. For the first time in a long time, he spoke kindly, and I reveled in the happiness. I wondered when was the last time I felt this way. So, can you go home today? I'll rest a bit more and then go home. Okay. I'll be waiting at home then. Are you sure you're okay? I can make it home by myself. I was set to go home by evening. On the way, I had never wanted to see Kevin as much as I did then. I was eager to see what kind of face he would be waiting with. Hi, Kevin. However, the emotions I had felt vanished the moment I saw his face. You're late. Where have you been loitering? I came straight home. I doubt it. Well, it's time for dinner anyway. I was stunned. He hadn't been worried at all. Huh? Stop that, huh? Hurry up and get it ready, or I'll be in trouble. As I was told to, I started preparing the meal. I didn't have the energy to argue and just wanted to get through the evening. I'm going to rest now. Hey. There are still things to do, aren't there? I can't do any more today. Besides, if I collapse again and end up in the hospital, you wouldn't like that, would you? Well, that's true. But just for today. Without responding to Kevin, I went straight to bed and managed to sleep like a log. Mom is coming this weekend, so make sure you entertain her well. This weekend? That's in 2 days. What? Are you planning to tell her not to come now? It's not that, I just wish you had told me earlier. It'll be fine. Just make sure there are no slip-ups. I was a bit nervous about meeting my mother-in-law after so long. I wanted to entertain her well, as Kevin said. But wishing he was more reasonable was perhaps asking for too much. Then, the day before my mother-in-law was due to arrive. "Hey. Mom's coming tomorrow, and look how dirty this is." He pointed at the table, which was a mess from his drinking earlier. "I'll clean it up now." Arguing with Kevin would do no good, so I focused silently on the task. However, he seemed displeased with that too, constantly nagging from the sidelines. I really couldn't understand what he wanted. It wasn't until 1 a.m. that Kevin was finally satisfied enough to go to sleep. "She's supposed to arrive around noon today, so please take care of it." However, when I woke up, my body felt as heavy as lead. Just to be sure, I took my temperature and it was over 100 degrees. Instead of showing concern, Kevin made a grimace. "What are you doing at a time like this?" "I'll handle it somehow." "Really, you're so useless." Kevin was unusually irritable. His mother held that much significance for him. I had been lying down until just before my mother-in-law's arrival. But there was no sign of recovery. "It's been a while, Judy. Thank you for coming all the way. Please, come in." I managed to greet my mother-in-law, but I don't remember much after that. I was chatting with her in the living room. But my condition was only getting worse, and I was nearing my limit. "Are you okay?" "Yes." "What is it?" "Kevin." "Isn't Judy feeling unwell?" "Huh?" "That's just because she stayed up late last night. Let her rest a bit." "All right." Kevin carried me to the bedroom. "Just stay quiet and lie down." I had no energy left to respond. Realizing that there would be a problem, I made a phone call to someone. I don't know how much time had passed when I was awakened by Kevin's voice. "Who said you could sleep? I have a fever over 100 degrees right now. Plus, you were the one who told me to lie down just before. That doesn't mean you can just sleep. Besides, a fever has nothing to do with me. Just manage your own health." He spoke to me as if mocking me for being bedridden with a high fever. When I tried to ignore him. "Got some nerve ignoring me, huh? Stop it, please." He forcefully tried to drag me out of bed, grabbing my hand. I desperately shook him off, and he stumbled backward. That's when his switch flipped. "Don't you defy your husband." Kevin left the room and then reappeared with a wine bottle. For a moment, I braced for death. Fortunately, his control was poor and the bottle hit the window, shattering into pieces. "Don't dodge." "What are you doing?" "What if it had hit me?" "It's because you don't obey me. I never said you could slack off on the housework." Then, a voice came from behind Kevin. "I can't just stand by and listen to that." Kevin immediately turned around. Why are you here?" He couldn't hide his shock at the person in front of him. "I never imagined you'd go this far. There's a reason for this." "How disgraceful." Reprimanded harshly, Kevin quieted down and began to tremble with overwhelming fear. Perhaps he instinctively understood the fate that awaited him. But this wasn't the end. I was determined to settle scores for all I had endured up to now. "Why are you here?" Kevin asked my father. "Why?" "Because Judy contacted me. She said she had reached her limit." I couldn't stand Kevin's rampage anymore and had called my father for help. He was so furious that he looked like he might hit someone. "Wait, please. There's a proper reason for this." "A reason, huh?" "Then let me hear this reason of yours." Well. Kevin fumbled, unable to continue. He had spoken impulsively and hadn't thought about what would come next. "What's wrong?" Wasn't there a reason? Please wait. There's no reason, is there? Lying now won't do you any good. Yes. Reprimanded by my father, Kevin looked like a frog being stared down by a snake. I hadn't expected things to go so smoothly. There are things a husband can and cannot do. Then, Kevin looked at me and began to say something even more outrageous. It's all Judy's fault, really. I don't know if it's menopause or what. But lately she's just been sleeping and not doing any housework. I couldn't take it anymore and retorted. Don't joke around. Do you have any idea how hard I work every day preparing your meals and doing the housework? You take it for granted, but it's not. Shut up. You just need to obey me. Who do you think allows you to live like this? So that's your true feeling. What? Do you think we're alone here? Kevin, startled, looked ahead. There stood my father, arms crossed. I didn't expect it to be this bad. Looking back, I shouldn't have agreed to the dinner party just because we knew each other. What? Actually, I knew your father a bit. But my father never said a word. That's right. Because your father had borrowed money from me. My father did such a thing? Then, my father chuckled. I immediately understood what he was thinking. Since we're on the subject, I'll have you, his son, repay it. What? But my father is already dead. Even if a parent dies, their debts are inherited by their children. But you can't prove that. Don't worry about that. I've kept the promissory note well preserved. That's unbelievable. Kevin's shoulders slumped in defeat. Unfortunately for him, his troubles were not over yet. Hearing the commotion, his mother came to see what was happening. What's all this noise? His mother was unaware that my father was there. She also didn't know about the terrible things her son had been doing up to this point. It's been a while. Why are you here? Actually, my daughter asked for my help, so I came here. Help? What for? Kevin, perhaps to avoid drawing attention to himself, shrank smaller and held his breath. Seeing him like that made me burst out laughing, which I did not miss. Why are you making yourself so small? Don't say unnecessary things. Unnecessary? This situation is your fault, you know. Unaware of the situation, my mother-in-law listened as my father explained the details. Kevin, what have you done to Judy? It's not like that, Mom. No excuses. And you might not know this. But I also suffered from menopausal symptoms, so I understand how tough it can be. You too? But your father never did anything terrible like you are now. At this moment, Kevin had no allies. I had not known that my mother-in-law suffered from menopausal symptoms like me. I knew she had become a housewife after turning 50. But since we weren't close after the marriage, she might not have wanted to burden us with her life. He was always proactive in helping out with the household chores, unlike you. Eventually, Kevin seemed resigned and apologized to me. I was wrong. From now on, I'll support you, Judy. Can we start over? It seemed that Kevin was serious. Just when I was about to forgive him, thinking he really meant it. Just wait a minute. What? Are you really okay with this? Prompted by my father's words, I paused to think. Then, as if to warn me, my mother-in-law chimed in. The final decision is yours, Judy, but think it through carefully. I pondered repeatedly whether to forgive Kevin. Just then, I caught him yawning out of the corner of my eye. At that moment, my mind was made up. I've made my decision. Is that so? You're going to give me another try, right? I took a deep breath before declaring to Kevin. I'm getting a divorce. So this is the end for us. I had completely forgotten that I was running a high fever at the time. What are you saying? You can't live on your own, can you? Kevin approached me, his presence imposing fear. Stop it. His mother's command halted him. Don't show any more disgraceful behavior, please. Fine. I understand. I don't need a useless woman like you anyway. With that, Kevin stormed out of the house. Judy, we really caused you trouble. If I had been more attentive. That's not true. I was saved by your words just now. What will you do now? Like I said before, I'll prepare for the divorce. Then I'll prepare on this side too. With a determined look, my father left. My mother-in-law and I remained and talked for a bit. I hope this makes things a bit easier for you, Judy. If things get tough, may I consult with you, Mother? Are you serious? Yes. I would like to hear more from you as someone experienced in life. Understood. If this old woman is okay with you, I'd be happy to help. Several weeks later, we divorced without any issues regarding property division. Shortly after, I moved back to my parents' house to recuperate. About half a year later, I received a call from my ex-husband, who I had not been in contact with. He was living alone, regularly visiting the hospital. What do you want after all this time? I actually have a chronic condition that's getting worse. They said it could turn serious if it continues like this. I figured as much. He must be unable to handle it on his own and is seeking help. So, what do you want me to do? I want you to take care of me from now on. The doctor said it would be tough to manage alone. Is there any benefit for me in doing that? It would just be for a while, just until I recover. His selfishness seemed unchanged. Did he really think his ex-wife would agree to such a request? If he did, that was truly wishful thinking. Why don't you ask your mother then? I already did, but she refused. That figures. If I were in his mother's place, I wouldn't want to care for him either. That's unfortunate. That's why I'm asking you, Judy. As much as I'd like to help, it's impossible. Maybe if you had asked earlier. Besides, I'm not free either, so I'm going to hang up now. My ex-husband then pleaded more desperately. I apologize for everything. It was all my fault. That doesn't show any real sincerity. I was enjoying this exchange. I never intended to lend a hand. But I wanted to let him grasp for hope and then face despair. I won't ever do it again. Please. That's impossible. He kept apologizing over and over, but I was starting to get bored. I'm sorry, but I can't take care of you. I'm still dealing with menopause myself. How am I supposed to care for you in this condition? Desperate, Kevin didn't seem to care about appearances anymore. Please. You're all I have right now. It's all too late. Regretting and apologizing now doesn't turn back time. I've learned my lesson and understand now. So. He didn't give up and kept pressing. He might sound remorseful, but forgiving him now would undo all the progress I'd made. I've come this far on my own, so you should just do what you like now. It will be easier for you that way. What am I supposed to do then? You might have forgotten, but I divorced you, remember? We can't live together anyway. Are you serious? Don't make me repeat myself. Talking to you just adds to my stress, goodbye. With that, I hung up the phone. His needing care was none of my concern. I muttered, serves you right. After that, being free from the stress of my ex-husband, my health began to improve. I was looking forward to returning to work soon. One morning, something else came up. Do you remember what I told Kevin before? About how his father had debts? Yes, that's right. It took some time, but it looks like I can finally make a claim. A bit anxious, I asked my father a question. Out of curiosity, how much is it? $30,000. What? That much? Well, a lot happened back then. Though I have the promissory note, I never really planned on having it repaid. But this time, I couldn't overlook it. My father's expression seemed a bit sad. I didn't know much about the relationship between my father-in-law and him. But it must have been a good one. However, Kevin had ruined even that. There was no way he could prepare such a large sum now, but I felt no sympathy. It was merely a punishment. Judy, can I talk to you for a moment? What happened? I had become more frequent in contacting my mother-in-law. It's about Kevin. I heard through the grapevine that he's filed for bankruptcy. He filed for bankruptcy? Yes. Apparently, he couldn't manage living on his own. I hope he learns his lesson from this. I wonder. He's been like this for years. Well, it's none of our business anymore. You're right about that. Talking with my mother-in-law was genuinely enjoyable. Yet, I'm also getting on in years. How much time I have left, I don't know. Yet, I plan to cherish each day and live it to the fullest.